right, perfect. So get ready to level up your productivity game with the ultimate guide for gamers. Today, we are joined by Josh. Josh Strout is going to be diving in and giving us a lot of information regarding his background of modular construction, real estate, and maybe some stuff regarding gaming, of course. So, thank you so much, Josh, for taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
And because you have joined us, I do want to ask, where are you joining us from?
I live in Southern California with my wife, Orange County. So it's about noon.
Because you joined in on a gamer's guide to productivity, I did want to ask how gaming influenced your personal growth as well as your personal development and what valuable lessons you have learned throughout your gaming experiences.
Wow, that's a good question. I was gaming pretty much my entire life. I mean, my first system was the original Nintendo, the NES.
Yeah.
So that was, I'm a little bit older than probably a lot of the gamers out there. And then I really got into gaming right around the time that the PS1, the original PlayStation, came out,
Hmm.
um, and that was a really exciting time because that was really when the video game industry really started to blow up, just because, of course, advances in technology. There were some, sort of intercompany rivalries going on between Sega and Nintendo, and then now
Yeah.
Sony and everything. So that naturally led to sort of an escalation in terms of, technology and obviously user interface, et cetera, that ultimately benefited all of us because then we got some pretty great systems. So really at that point, just because it became so sort of immersive
Hmm.
and so much more advanced than than it was beforehand, gaming just became a very big part, I think, of culture. In terms of certainly regarding how young people interacted, how they socialized with one another. So, I mean, for me, it was, hanging out with all my buddies, the neighbor kids down the street,
Right.
playing like Mortal Kombat 2 when we're not supposed to, kind of game from everybody. Um, and then it kind of just, it grew from there because, you fast forward to like the late, really sort of like the early 2000s, the sort of like 2000 to 2004,
Hmm.
where the PlayStation 2 was going into the PlayStation 3, and really at that point, storytelling in video games became so much more involved, just because the production value going into games was
Right.
so much more than it ever was before. And really at that point, I think, well, actually, certainly including some pretty special titles during the PlayStation 2 days. But really, at that point, video games became, I think, much more of a storytelling medium than it otherwise was.
Hmm.
And the amount of production that goes into it, I mean, you can really attach yourself, you can really connect with some of these characters in ways that I would argue you really can't. Even if you're even watching a movie, you really can't, just in terms of the time that storytellers have to tell a story. Um, and, the same way that books, I think, shape a person's, you know, sense of individuality, their
Right.
sense of self. Video games, I think, do the same thing because of that ability to tell stories. So I would say, video games and some of the lessons that you learn through these stories that are being told, I think, have the ability to shape you as they've shaped me, just as much as a collection of really good books. So it really was a big part of my childhood and growing up, and it still is today. I was just playing video games before the call.
Same.
I was killing some time. So um, yeah, I mean, it was a huge part of who I am.
And I did want to ask because you did say so many insightful things. Like, first of all, which team are you in regards to your favorite console? I know you showed a controller, so is that the team that you rep?
Sony all day long. I don't I don't even own an Xbox. I have I have like every other console. That's not true. I think I do have an Xbox 360. It's collecting dust somewhere. Um, I do have yeah, I have a console from pretty much every manufacturer. I even have like a Sega Dreamcast somewhere in the closet. And me and my wife who also enjoys gaming as well, we sort of committed one of our guest bedrooms to like a game room. So then we have like old
Wow.
consoles and everything set up, and big TV with games on the shelves and everything. So I am Team Sony. I still think to this day the PS2 is the best console ever made. Just in terms of its how big a leaps it's made in terms of technology and everything it was capable of doing. Speaking of PlayStation 2, I referenced a couple titles. Um, you know, the uh, the PlayStation 2, I think I credit MGS2, Metal Gear Solid 2, as probably
Hmm.
being one of the original titles that got me really thinking about video games as a storytelling medium.
Oh.
Um, I mean, if anyone ever played a Hideo Kojima game, you know that that guy likes his 30-minute cutscenes. And you start playing, it's like, oh, well, this is a movie. Like this is just
Yeah.
this is a movie. But again, the PS2 had the technological capabilities that just no one's ever seen before up to that point. So I am Team Sony, and certainly also because some of my favorite titles and franchises are Sony games as well.
Now, which specific game did did you put in the most hours that you can recall?
I would say overall the Metal Gear series. Yeah.
Hmm.
MGS5 was the last game I platinumed, and that was like that took a good 300 to 400 hours of gameplay because you have to do a lot of
Yeesh.
stuff over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's a time suck. Not coincidentally, that was the last game I platinumed because I was just like I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I have to, and I haven't played the game since I platinumed it. I am like, okay, I don't need to ever play this game again. I probably have Yeah, I probably have a few hundred hours into MGS2 as well. Um, 3 Snake Eater, I think, is probably the best
Hmm.
of the entire franchise. Probably have couple hundred hours in that game too. So I would say the entire Metal Gear franchise is, I would suppose, my favorite.
Now, other than just for the fun of it, the killing of the time, what do you think has been your number one skill that you either have learned or honed through playing those games?
Most people wouldn't think about it, but critical thinking and strategy. You
Mm.
can, you really can hone your mind. I mean, I think it depends on what you're playing, of
Right,
course.
right.
But there are some great games out there that really take a strategic mind to master, and you can apply a lot of those same skills to the rest of your everyday life. A lot of folks credit video games with children having higher degrees of hand-eye coordination and reflexes.
Right.
That's not a coincidence. You can easily see how that's true. Um, my reflexes and hand-eye coordination definitely have diminished in my advancing years, but yeah, for 100% for sure. So they really and again, we're seeing this now because there's more and more companies, even the military, are making use of virtual reality VR as a way to train people. Because of the high degree of cognitive skill, cognitive strength that video games help you develop. So there
Mm.
is for sure, I think, some real life sort of applications to what we do in our free time with our video games.
And almost to start bridging over to your expertise, how did your interest in video games and creative technologies influence your decision to start entering the field of real estate and modular construction?
Well, I don't know if I could say that video games directly got me involved with real estate.
The only reason I say that is
Yeah,
because when I was looking at modular and I saw your video, you were saying that's like Legos. I'm like, oh, it's like
yeah,
Legos. That's a game. Okay, so that's why I came up with that
yeah.
question.
Well, it's funny you say that because going back to what I said about video games being so again, something you can connect with at a deeper
Hmm.
level. You know, if you've ever watched a movie, ever read a good book, you ever played a very good video game that had a story that you found to be inspiring. You know,
Hmm.
again, like you're following these characters around for like 50, 60 hours
Right.
during a campaign, and you're able to connect with them at a level, I would argue, much more deeper than what you would just the traditional movie. Because again,
Hmm.
you know, a storyteller only has a couple hours to tell you an entire story, including the character development of your favorite
Mm.
characters.
Oh,
So
that's
if you get sucked into a video game where, you know, you're basically embodying a character that you find to be, you know, very sort of inspiring, brave, courageous, whatever. I think you can take some of that. I think you can take some of those feelings that you have, that sense of inspiration, and you can apply it to your everyday life.
hmm
So who knows? Maybe in a way, you know, all my, you know, being able to sort of lose yourself and sort of, you know, go on these adventures with these other characters, these fictional characters, in a way, maybe they can inspire you to take chances, to be braver, to be more courageous in your everyday life. And that's something you certainly need if you're going to be an entrepreneur. So I think that could be one way where
hmm
it absolutely could have benefited me. I can make another connection to what I do and sort of, you know, video games, and that we're now at a point now in our modular construction business where we're using Unreal Engine 5. You know, my love for video games obviously got me very familiar with Unreal Engine 5. And
Right.
there are some real applications to the world of real estate. Like we are working on projects right now that allow us to create virtual worlds
hmm
of construction projects that haven't even begun yet.
Right.
So what we can do is we can harness that same technology that you see, like if anyone's ever played like the new Matrix demo
hmm
using Unreal Engine 5, which is just insane. We can use that same level of technology to achieve the same level of detail to basically render a digital twin of a construction project that we can use for sales, we can use for permitting applications. We can use Unreal Engine 5 to simulate traffic patterns. So whenever we're going to file for permits, you know, for a
hmm
construction project, one thing the city will always ask us is, all right, well, what kind of a pain are you going to cause for all the
Right.
neighbors and all the
Right.
residents of the area? And we can actually use the same technology that goes into video games now to simulate traffic patterns and pedestrian, you know, patterns, etc., to show that, hey, us
What?
being here isn't going to be that big of a deal because this is where the cars can go, and this is
Right. Right.
so it definitely does. My love of video games, I do find to be sort of overlapping with my work life more and more each day.
Wow. So I didn't even realize that Unreal Engine had that capacity. But the way that you describe it, it sounds really, really efficient, and leads up to my next question, which was, what would be some of the key advantages that you would say of modular construction over, the typical traditional method of construction, especially when you're trying to explain to people that it's, either cost effective or efficient. So for somebody who's starting to get into the real estate investment world, what would your pitch to, explain the pros at least? We can get the cons later, but at least for the pros for now.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a very exciting time in the modular construction industry where it's not an oversell. It really is truly not an oversell to say that we're at a point where there just really isn't much of a reason to not do modular construction.
Right.
Because, you know, I got into real estate the same way a lot of other people did. You know, I started out just as a private investor. Actually, I started out around the same time we were working for Hanover. I know that we have that in
Mhm.
common.
Right.
So I got into real estate as a private investor. Just, you know, you buy a couple rental properties, lease them out, etc., supplement your
Right.
income, and that sort of got it. That sort of developed and grew into, all right, well, let's try to flip some properties. Let's buy
Right.
some distressed proproperties, fix them up, try to resell them, just like they do on HGTV, because of course it's that simple. Of course it's that simple.
Right.
I got into it. No, is not that simple. It's incredibly painful. And that got into, all right, well, let's try to build, let's develop. And the construction industry, the real estate world, in and of itself, in general, is currently plagued by a number of inefficiencies that go across really the entire scale, the entire industry. Um, Obviously, I mean, cost of skilled labor is
Hmm.
through the roof. A
Right.
lot of that is just a supply and demand issue. Nobody wants to go into the trades. No, I think, and it's really sad. It's
Yes.
unfortunate. We don't have to get into this, but it's unfortunate that I think there's just a mentality now that just a lot of folks look down upon those who are in the trades,
Right. Right.
who opted to do more of a blue collar, quote unquote, type of job versus an office job, not realizing that, I mean, we're at a point now because nobody wants to go into the trades. You have electricians and plumbers making as much as doctors, and
Exactly.
without the med school bill, the tuition to pay off for med school, and it's a good living, because you're in something
Hashtag blue
that
collar
always,
worker.
yeah, it's something that always needs, people always need it. There's always a demand for it. But again, because nobody's going into that, cost of labor is going way up. Cost of materials, of course, is going up. Never mind inflation, but supply chain issues. We just had a nightmare of a supply chain issue a couple years ago with the Suez Canal, or the Panama Canal, sorry.
Hmm.
And cargo ships getting stranded in the ocean for months on end. So things like this are just continuously compressing profits for
Right.
developers and investors like myself. And modular construction for us, really, it was a direct solution to a lot of those problems. So
Mm.
when I go if I'm going to develop a property, ordinarily most GCs, they do, if they do anything, if they're not just a purely paper GC, meaning they subcontract out 100% of everything,
Right.
most GCs do one or two things, and then they subcontract out everything else. So you
Mm.
think about, on an average job, you have one person or one team in charge, and then a dozen subcontractors. And the
Right.
problem is, each one of those subcontractors is their own CEO, with their own business, their own way
Ah.
of doing things, their own
Hmm.
schedule to meet, and managing all those different people and sometimes all those different egos becomes incredibly laborious and just way too much of a hassle. Now I subcontract out just a couple things, because 85% of the properties that we build are completed inside of our facility.
Hmm.
So it keeps everything in that way, it keeps everything a lot more simple.
Hmm.
Obviously, because we're not paying for each subcontractor's overhead and their profit margins, our costs are lower overall in a project, which means we can pass those savings on to the home buyer. Again, we don't have snow days, we don't have rain delays. We're never impacted by weather because we're building our homes inside of this huge facility.
Hmm.
So that, in combined with the fact that we can be building the house while the team at the site is building the foundation, so
Right.
everything's running together at the same time, we can build the house about 50% faster. So if you're an investor who has to pay interest on a construction loan, you're not paying as much interest because the house is going to be finished, or the project, the apartment complex, whatever. Your project's going to be finished that much faster than it would be if you were waiting for someone to finish it on site. So now your finance charges are also lower. So we're more efficient, we're cheaper, and there's also an environmental component. We're less impactful in the environment because of how we build. We
Right.
are we are seen as a greener form of construction. And all of these things now are, obviously, they're hot button topics. You
Correct.
know, people are trying to find affordable housing.
Hmm.
We can make affordable housing. People
Exactly.
are worried about the environment. We're better for the environment. So
Correct.
this is a really good time for us to be doing what we're doing.
Now, for the individuals that have an incorrect mindset when it comes to modular construction, because when I first heard of modular construction, I was thinking of like a trailer home. That's what I was first thinking. And then
Mhm.
when somebody was like, when you think of modular, you want to think of like a manufactured. And so for individuals who might have a misunderstanding, how do you clarify without like scaring them away from modular construction?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of that stems from the fact that we are I think a lot of folks are erroneously using the term manufactured in the wrong way. You know, in
Mm,
the world of real estate, a manufactured home is a trailer. It's like a double wide. It comes with a serial number tag on the
hmm
module, or sorry, on the home. It depreciates. It doesn't appreciate like a regular home. It's mobile in nature. It's made to be moved. It has to be moved, and it's by and large just because manufactured homes, meaning trailers, follow different building codes. Sometimes the quality is a little bit less
mm,
than it would be for a home that's designed to be there for 200 years. We are not we are not manufactured homes. There is no such thing as a modular home. By
mm.
definition, there's no such thing as a modular home. Modular only describes how we build a home.
Ah, so it's the
So
process.
it's a process. It's not a type of home. So
Got
when we construct one of our homes and we put them together, we finish the roof, we stack everything, put everything in place, stack the modules together. When we walk away from that site, the house is indistinguishable from any other house that you'd see walking down the street, any other house that was built by an on-site home builder. You
it.
you can't tell the difference.
Right, right.
Yeah, you won't be able to tell the difference. Also, there's if you ever look at one of our listings, one of our MLS listings for a house that we built and tried to sell,
Mhm.
nowhere in our listing will we ever say the house is modular because we don't have to.
Right.
Appraisers cannot treat our houses any differently than any other house built on site. They appreciate the same way any house does that was built on site.
Mhm.
Um, when they're put there, they're there forever. They're a permanent structure. So
Right.
they're designed to hold up just as long as any other house that was built on site. So that's really what I try to drive home with people is that and understand that modular describes a process, not a type of home. And yes, a lot of the misunderstandings that people have, they come from the assumption that what we do is akin to trailers, and that's just not
Right.
true.
Right. No, no, if they see the pictures there that you provide, they're gonna be like, "What? I want one of
Yeah,
those."
yeah.
But I did wanna ask also, since you did clarify, how would you stay up to date, in terms of knowing what the latest technologies, the latest, news, when something might be coming down the pipeline, whether like a law or like, the blockage of a canal? How do you stay on top of all that information, and how do you act accordingly with your business once you do have that information?
A lot of other people helping me out
Ah,
and working with our team. It's never just me. It's never just one person. It's a lot of people that are involved, and I'm not always the first person to find things out. Sometimes I hear it from our CFO, or sometimes I hear it from somebody else on our team, one of our consultants that we work with. So I mean, I really do make a habit of trying to surround myself with people who not only understand and value what it is we're trying to accomplish, but
mhm,
those who are workers, who are willing to work and able to work as hard as I do. And it really is, it's a team effort. So as far as things that happen in the world, look, we don't have control over that any more than anybody else does. So all
right,
we can do is focus on trying to develop and try to distribute the highest quality product possible, which if we're doing that, we should be okay because we're in a constant state of undersupply in the housing market. I think to this day we're still about 5 million units short in the United States. So there's always a demand. There's always going to be a demand for quality housing. As long as we're continuing to do that, we should be okay. Any hardships that fall our way are going to be felt by our competition too.
mhm,
So we just got to focus on sort of what we can do, the best, the best job that we can do, and kind of let the world sort itself out. As far as laws that are passed, we follow the same residential building code that anybody else does. Again, that's one of the reasons why we're not treated any differently.
mhm,
Um, we follow the same building codes any home builder does. So again, if something new comes out, it's going to impact our competition
Right, right.
as well. So all we can really do is sort of just be versatile, be flexible, and be willing to adapt with whatever comes our way.
Oh, nice. Thank you for clarifying that. And I did want to take a slight commercial break just to
Yep.
let everybody know, if you like the valuable content that's being provided, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And Josh, please let everybody know where they can also either follow you, if they're interested in what you're providing, where they can go to get more information, as well as the area that you develop. So that way they can,
Yeah, thank you. If anyone ever has any questions, I mean, we love talking about this stuff. So, I talk about this stuff all day long. You can find us at www.ivmodular.com, as in Iron Valley. So ivmodular.com. You can email us at info@ironvalleyci.com. We have a Facebook page you can find. We have Instagram that you can follow, look at some of our projects, our homes. But again, don't just take it from me. There's a lot of useful information out there. The Modular Building Institute is another source of education for folks who are interested in modular construction but not really sure if it's right for them and they want to give it a try. So do your research. Certainly, if you have questions, ask me, and we're here to help. We're here to educate.
okay,
Regarding
perfect.
where we build, because I know, sorry, that was your other question. Our facilities are in Pennsylvania, but again, because of how we operate, we have the ability to do projects pretty much across the entire country. We
Oh, wow,
regularly
really?
send homes as far up as Maine, all the way down to Florida. Most recently, we're doing a project for a developer out in, I think, Wyoming. So we're shipping modules all the way out to Wyoming as well. So we have the ability to really help pretty much anybody across the United States.
Okay, so when you mean shipping, so you're essentially saying that you can have a team set a foundation in like Wyoming or in Maine, have it built in Pennsylvania, and then have it completed?
Yes. So yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear. That's exactly what we do. So we'll have the team out in whatever city that we're building in, because you have to do some work at the local level, of course. So you have to pour your footers,
Right,
you have to
right.
pour your foundation. So we'll have a team out there doing that. Meanwhile, we're having the actual structure, the actual home built in our facility. And then we just, again, like giant Lego blocks, we place them on the backs of a semi truck trailer and we just ship them out to the site. Then we use cranes to position them in place.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool. I was thinking that it was on just a specific local level, but yeah, that is actually pretty cool because I was thinking like maybe 50-mile radius, 100-mile radius. But if somebody reaches out, like, California, Maine, Florida, Alabama, and they, go through the entire process, that's something that your facility can complete regardless of where they're located, as long as,
100,
continental USA.
100%. Our production team is licensed in multiple states, I believe pretty much every state. Now there's a cost standpoint associated with shipping modules so far away from our home.
Right,
So
right,
again, we have transportation costs that perhaps the standard home builder doesn't have to incur. And
right.
ordinarily it works out because we're so much less expensive in the aggregate that it makes sense for us to do modular and then we just ship them out to the site. However, the further that you go away from Pennsylvania, the more expensive our shipping costs become. And then it gets to a point where, I mean, how much are you saving, in the end,
Mhm,
by the time
mhm.
that you pay for rigging, trucking, that sort of thing. I think the caveat I should add to this Wyoming job, I'll check with our team, but I believe that particular client might have owned his own trucking company,
Mhm.
so I think there were some cost efficiencies there for him to bring the modules out. Because we don't, granted, like I'll admit, we don't do a lot of projects that far away from Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
But what I typically tell people is if you're within like a 6 hour drive of central Pennsylvania, which is about half of the U.S. population. You think about all the major cities there.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're within about a 6-hour drive of central Pennsylvania, chances are we're going to be your best bet.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, because I did want to get clarification on that, and I did want to know, other than that Wyoming, if you had a specific job, or situation that really made you appreciate what you've been doing so far.
I love seeing things go up. I love seeing things be built. Um, I also love solving problems, and that's what we do. We solve problems. Case in point, there's a huge application for what we do. There's a huge application for affordable housing. For
Hmm.
affordable housing obviously is a social issue that we're all looking at right now, that we're all dealing with. Unfortunately, again, because of the cost of labor and everything, it's really difficult to construct affordable housing.
Right.
We literally can make a project that would otherwise not be viable. We can make it financially viable just because our costs are that much lower. So I think we have an important um, role to play as we move forward, an important role in trying to help address some of these issues. I'm particularly proud of the fact that we're in a position where perhaps we can help with some of these things. So that's a big, that's a big part of, certainly a big issue of pride within our team, that we can do that. And then also too, I mean, we're a pretty, you know, uh, technological, tech centric construction company. If you think about it, I mean, we
Hmm.
leverage a lot of the same tenets of manufacturing and how we build, and a lot of that stuff develops and changes with advances in technology. So as construction technology advances, companies like ours are going to be sort of at the forefront of those changes, and I think that's really cool. I think that makes the job really, really fun. So it
Okay.
is, like I said, it's a really exciting time to be in our field.
Now, in terms of the affordability, it did bring me to mind. I don't know if you're able to speak on this, but would that also mean that individuals who have the capacity to be eligible for like a FHA loan, a first time home owners, that this would be something that they should be looking at with serious contention?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's why. I mean, we don't discriminate regarding someone's financing. The private homeowner, the private home seller, unfortunately does discriminate. And anybody who's ever tried to use an FHA loan or a VA loan, for instance, um, in this market, will know what I'm talking about. It's difficult. It's hard to get your offer accepted a lot of times if the seller knows that it's like an FHA loan, just because of
Mhm.
they don't want to take chances in the fact that ultimately it may not get approved, or there's going to be a lot of like obstacles or hurdles that each
Right,
party's going to
right.
have to satisfy. We don't discriminate. So as long as once the home buyer gets their approval, and the lender confirms that the project will be financed and the money is available, we're ready to do business. And again, we have the ability to construct a very high quality home at a much, much lower price point, so that as a new home buyer, by the time you move in, you're going to have more equity in that house than you otherwise would if you were buying it from either the private market or another on-site home builder. So it's a great way, honestly, to get ahead financially as a home buyer. I mean, it's a great way to prevent yourself from becoming house broke.
Hmm. Interesting. So I have like three or four more questions left, but they're gonna be some tough
All
ones
right.
for you. I'll start with the easier one. So, in regards to that information that you just disclosed, so in a hypothetical situation where somebody is looking to buy, let's say like a couple acres of land, like 2 or 3 hours away from Pennsylvania, and they're looking to get the FHA or a different version of lending, because there's so many different
Yeah.
ways of getting lending. So, what would you say should be their appropriate steps to action? Should they, first go to the mortgage company and ask for the loan? Should they reach out to the real estate agent and tell them this is what I'm looking at? Should they go on Zillow and be like, let me reach out directly to the person who is selling, so that way they can start the process? Or should they go directly to you and the website representatives and seeing how you guys can assist? What should somebody that's intrigued in this process, like, what should their steps to action be?
So what I would recommend to anyone is, if you are interested in developing a new house and if you're interested in using our process, reach out to a company like ours first, and explain to us what it is you're trying to achieve. Tell us where it is you're trying to build, and we offer this service completely free. If you have a piece of land in mind, either whether you own it or maybe you're just looking to make an offer on it, we can take a look at it and do sort of a free feasibility analysis to determine, is the land, conducive for a modular build. Sometimes, I mean, we're not a one size fits all. We're not sort of a solution for everybody. I mean, crane ingress egress is important. We have to be
Mhm.
able to maneuver a pretty sizable crane into the project site to lift the modules into place. Now, 85, I would say even 90% of the time, we figure it out and it's no problem. But every once in a while, somebody comes to us with a really sort of hairy project, and it's in an area where it's just like, oh man, I don't know how we're going to pull this one off. Whether it's because the ground's really hard to work with, or there could be overhead power lines. Sorry,
Mhm.
that again would get in the way of a crane boom.
Right.
So again, we unfortunately we don't have a solution for 100% of every prospective buyer that would come our way. But if you have a piece of land that you're looking to build, just reach out to us. We can take a look at it. We'll look at it on Google Earth, see what we think of it, see how doable it is, and we can go from there. We have a number of partner realtors across the state and across the country who are familiar with modular construction, who are also pretty well trained at helping you identify a piece of land that would work for our type of build. And then
Mhm.
once you have that figured out, and once you have your answers, your questions answered by us and by your realtor, whoever it is you're working with, at that point, yeah, talk to your lender. Let them know that you're thinking about doing a new build, and they'll know what to do. The loan, setting up the loan for a job like ours is no different than setting up a loan for a regular on-site build. It's the loan process is exactly the same.
Okay. Okay, so I appreciate that. That's just because there might be some individuals that are listening and tuning in, and they have no idea about real estate. They really want to get started. And guys, this is literally like one of the most seamless ways of doing it, because going about buying an already pre-established home, it's almost the same exact scenario. You're just doing one more step, which is just reaching out to you guys first,
Right.
because everything else is pretty much the same exact thing. And before I ask the last two questions, did you want to add anything else on that?
No, like I said, we are. I'll just reemphasize that we are here to help. We love talking about this stuff. We will never turn away somebody who wants to learn about modular construction. I really do believe. I love it. I really do believe that this is the future of our industry. Right now, globally, we're about a $70 billion industry, which sounds like a lot, but it's not. Not in the world of construction. We make up about 4.5–5% of all U.S. construction, so we're still pretty
Oh
niche.
wow.
But we
Hmm.
are projected to be a $130 billion industry globally by the end of the decade. So this is becoming popular not just here in the United States, but it's becoming popular everywhere because we solve the same problems that are being felt everywhere. Um, Issues that pertain to the cost of real estate.
Hmm. Now, this is going to be the hardest question I'm ever going to ask.
Okay.
If you don't want to answer, just say pass, and I'll go to the easiest question. So, building trust with potential investors is crucial for any company. So, how does Iron Valley Modular establish and maintain trust with investors? And can you share more about any investment opportunities available for those that are interested? And if there's any certain requirements or minimum amount required to invest?
That's a great question. I have to tiptoe around a couple things there. So how we build trust. I mean, again, communication is key. It's having very candid, open conversations like you and I are having right now.
Mhm.
Some of the same questions you ask me are questions I get almost on a daily basis from whether they be lenders or potential investors. And again, I wouldn't say it's easy, but in some ways it might seem a little easier to us to kind of get the attention of investors because we can come at things from a very logical position.
Right.
And we can say, listen, guys, we know the issues that you're facing. A lot of our investors are naturally they're going to be developers. A lot of big name investors or even hedge fund managers have funds that focus on real estate because real estate is such a great
Mhm.
thing to invest in. So when we
Right.
talk to these people, we can go at them from very sort of straightforward, with a very straightforward approach, and we can tell them, hey, we know the problems that you're having because everybody's having them. We know that labor is getting incredibly difficult to find. Quality contractors are getting very difficult to hire. It's becoming more expensive. Your profits are constrained. Let us explain to you what we do because we have a solution for all of those issues. And a lot of folks, again, any sort of hesitancy that people have, it comes just from a lack of familiarity, a lack of knowledge.
Right.
So
Right.
again, we have webinars and info sessions with people. We show them clips of our projects. You show them how our homes go together, etc. We invite them up to Pennsylvania to see our facility. That's really our best sales tool and our best way of developing trust with investors because once they see how the process actually works, it's a very high rate of close, a very high close rate once they come up and see the facility. So again, just having that dialogue for us is the best way possible. And again, if you can't tell, we're really excited about what we do. I really, I
Right.
speaking for myself, I
Right.
love what I do. And hopefully that comes off when I talk to investors and that they see, okay, these people are genuine. This is a legit, this is a real deal. This is the real deal. This is the real future of construction. So hopefully all those things are adequately conveyed to the folks I'm talking to. As far as investment opportunities are concerned, we are working on a couple of things. I can't really dispel the details here,
No
but
worries.
if somebody wants to talk to us, absolutely they can. Please reach out to us. But we are setting up a couple of different ways where if you want to invest in a project that we're developing, we have platforms for that, and we can talk. Um, Ordinarily, when it comes to like commercial construction, the
Mhm.
minimum investment would be about 50,000 for a project that we're trying to build as part of our fund. And then we are also currently seeking investment for the sake of scaling up our business. We are currently seeking equitable investments from folks who perhaps are in the real estate world who understand that what we bring to the table is infrastructure. We bring to the table infrastructure and a means of
Right.
developing real estate at a much, much lower cost. So we are actively trying to scale up our business, and we're looking for folks who share in our vision for the future, and willing to bring them in as partners. So that's another thing that we're currently working on as well. And anybody who is seriously considering getting into this world, again, I just highly suggest they reach out to us and talk.
Perfect, perfect. No, that is exactly it. No worries about not having to, answer directly. I understand how business can be. Not everything is an open book. Some things, you just got to keep it in your corner in your little playbook, especially if a lawyer is
Right.
listening. And but wrapping up here, I did want to ask, what do you do in terms of having a positive company culture? Because everything is good to have it, for investors and outside, but for somebody, like earlier you mentioned regarding blue collar work, what would be some of the positive company culture that somebody that might be listening in and they're a gamer, they don't know what they're might be doing after high school and they're in college and they're thinking about, you said all this amazing stuff about blue collar work. So what would be something in regards to the company culture that you would be letting them know that this is something that they might consider or want to do?
It's a great question. We have a ton of respect. We have immense respect for people who go into the trades because it's many of those people who are the reason we're in business, who actually
Right.
drive the company forward. I mean, I can, I help to craft the company strategy. I certainly make every effort. I want to be seen as someone who embodies the company culture. I mean, ultimately, that should start with me and the other folks who form our senior leadership team. Um, we never, like I said, we welcome bright ideas from anywhere. It doesn't matter, what your position is on the team. If you have a good idea, if you have something that you want to share that you think is going to benefit the company, benefit the team, we want to hear about it. We don't, like I said, we're all in this together. We love talking about it. We're very big believers in the trades, and we are
Hmm.
actively working on ways to invest into the future of the trades. We look to partner with local vocational schools in the area, provide them better funding, provide certain internship or training opportunities for folks who perhaps want to go into welding or go into electrical work or carpentry. These are all things that we heavily rely on. It's having
Right.
quality welders, quality plumbers, electricians. These are all very lucrative careers too, if you go into it. So we really do see ourselves as advocates for the field. We want to make sure that younger people understand that college is great. I went to college. It's not for everybody. It doesn't have to be. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I question if maybe the traditional college experience lost some of its value over the last decade or so. Um,
Hmm.
College doesn't have to be for everybody. You don't require college
Right.
to have a lucrative career, not anymore, at least. So
Right.
there is another path to finding financial freedom and just an overall quality career. So we want to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that younger people understand that they have a place they can go to learn, and also we want to make sure that we're actively creating jobs for those people as they graduate from their trade school. So that in a nutshell is really what we try to do to make sure that we're doing our part to kind of move things forward.
Perfect. No, that is great because I always advocate as well. Like, blue collar workers, they essentially run the country, because without them, no electricity, no plumbing, no heating, no home.
Yeah.
So I did want to close with a question that alleviates everything and leaves the business to the side. What has been, to your knowledge, your most favorite experience regarding gaming that you might remember? It could be the earliest experience, the first time you got an amazing, gameplay or highlight, or you were doing it in front of your friends, or the story was just amazing. What's that one experience regarding gaming that you're just like, wow, nothing ever will get to that level, but I always cherish that moment?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a lot. I would say again, I got to go back to Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2 was really the first game I ever played where I was like literally like just blown away and sort of sucked into the story. And I realized
Hmm.
that gaming as I knew it has changed and has evolved. And honestly, I remember feeling like emotionally sort of impacted by what I was seeing. Um, I won't say I'm not saying it's the best Metal Gear story because it's not, but it's the first one. It's the first time I played a game that I remember being
Mhm.
emotionally impacted the way that I am, the way that I was at the time. I would say I would say it's right up there. I would say a close second was when I beat the Bloodstarved Beast in Bloodborne for the first time because I just about threw my controller through the screen. Uh,
Yeah.
and it was my first
Oh man.
Soulsborne game I ever played, which was probably a mistake because I understand it's probably the most difficult one. But I rage
Yeah.
quit like for months. And I didn't look up any help. I didn't know like I didn't have tools or guides or anything to help me. So, um, and then I went back one day randomly and on like maybe like the 11th or 12th try or whatever, I finally beat it. And yeah, I was jumping around the house quite a bit there. So I would say that's up there too.
Okay, so I know I was trying to close, but like oh my goodness, any Souls game is like so annoying to play
Yeah,
because no matter how many times you try, you can look at somebody else playing and be like, "Oh, I know exactly how to do it.
right.
Yeah, I watched the tutorial, I read," and then you go in there and it's like, yo, what the heck? It's not working. The tutorial said this is how you're supposed to do it, and it's not working.
I was chasing a platinum for Elden Ring, and I don't have enough time for that. It's just I don't get to play as much as I'd like to anymore, at least nowadays. But that was the most recent game I finished, so that was pretty great too. But I mean, for my money, I still think Bloodborne's their best game.
Yeah, it's definitely something achievable. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to defeat any of the Souls bosses ever. I know for a fact that I would try endlessly and it would just it's nowhere near as fun consistently losing. So I'm glad to hear that somebody didn't give up, went back, and then did it. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was an incredible conversation. I definitely applaud you for creating this company, this mindset, this innovation to essentially provide a huge amount of solutions because the home is a huge amount of solutions. That's not just a place to sleep. There's so many more things that go into a home. So I applaud you for doing that. And once again, please let everybody know where they can go to support you, as well as if they're interested in doing some sort of business with you, where they can also start collaborating and have just a conversation.
Absolutely. Again, just you can go to our website, ivmodular.com. There's also a form you can fill out where we will get your message, your information. You can also email us directly at info@ironvalleyci.com. Follow us on Facebook, message us there, message us on Instagram. We check all of that, and we're happy to have the conversation.
Perfect. Well, I hope everybody that listened that you enjoyed the conversation, you learned something of value, and hopefully you applied it even more so because just because you have information, unless you don't apply it, it's irrelevant. If you also like to make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Other than that, it's been a phenomenal episode. Josh, if you have any last words, now's your time.
Don't give up if you're stuck on your Soulsborne game. Just keep at it. Um, Maybe I'll go back and I'll try. I'll start another one today. Who knows? But no, love gaming, love connecting with you all. Thanks so much again for having me.
Oh, thank you. And this has been episode 21 of the interview series, season 2, episode 1 of A Gamer's Guide to Productivity. I'm your host, Nico Pingan. This has been an amazing show. Thank you so much, Josh, once again for coming out and supporting everybody. Make sure to check him out. Check out if you are especially interested in anything regarding real estate. Definitely check him out. Other than that, take care and have a great rest of your day.